when to study alone and when to study in groups. Never. No, I'm just kidding. But ideally, you would first study alone and then you would study with a group. Why? Because if you don't follow that order, you turn out to miss out on one of the best things about studying in groups, which is learning by teaching. If you don't know the material that you're teaching, you won't be able to teach it. In fact, you could even be hurting the group because now you're just, bringing everybody down. There is another situation though. Whenever you have a ton of questions, that might be good for you to go to a group, because although your classmates watched the same lecture, some of them will have understood some parts, some of them will have understood others, and they may come up with examples that the professor didn't have that you may understand a lot better. Now, one of the most important parts of studying in a group is deciding who is going to be in that group. And it's tough because you would hate to exclude people. However, you do have to be careful who's in that group. And I know you're thinking of that one person that always says they're gonna study and they never do, and they always come to you, or you always go to other people asking for help. Problem is, when you bring those folks into your study sessions, they end up disturbing everybody. Because if you're all over here, ready to ask questions over here, and this person is over here, they are a problem. And obviously, we're only talking about the study environment. We're not talking about the person as a whole. But still, this is where you would draw some boundaries. Here's an actual example. Hey John, if you want to come to the study session, you have to study before. And I'm dead serious. We all want to get good grades, and if you don't study before, we're going to have to keep answering your questions that might be super basic, and if you come like that, we're gonna have to leave you. We're serious. Now I know, that may sound harsh, but again, it is your grade. You're the one dealing with it. John's got his own issues. You need to focus on yourself when it comes to that. And sure, I'm not telling you to go out there and be a brute with him, but the point is, you need to come across as, hey, I'm willing to help only if you're willing to be helped. And another problem is, it may sound harsh that you're telling him no, but when you say yes, you're saying yes to bring someone that's going to be disruptive to the entirety of the group, meaning you're wasting everybody's time. That's probably even worse. And if you're the John in this situation, you need to get out of that mindset of, oh, they're my friends, they have to help me. And you need to start thinking about, hey, those are my friends. I either step up and grow with them, or I need to at least not drag them down. Of course, your friends want to help you, but then it's also up to you to want to be helped and not to drag them down with you. Because if you're not putting the effort on your end, you are hurting them. And also, please understand that I am talking about individuals who have actually not studied. If you are the John in the situation and you have studied, but you still don't get it, that's a whole different conversation. Then you can come with course and technique, or you can do something else. You can explain and you can show people that you have studied, but that's a whole different conversation. Generally, there are three things that can happen when you're studying with a group. You can practice, you can discuss, or you can teach. To practice is to essentially repeat what you have already understood so you can master that material. In this case, you're just trying to make sure everyone's on the same page with the basics. In the discussion portion, this is where you guys see where you disagree and where you don't. Obviously, this varies by subject, but this is where you approach all of those not so straightforward questions. That's when you actually sit down and you try to see who has the right answer, who doesn't, and why. And now when it comes to teaching, I want to highlight that when you're teaching somebody, it's not simply an act of kindness. You're also helping yourself. Because when you're teaching, you're thinking about the material, you're organizing in a sense that makes sense to you and somebody else, and now you're trying to condense that material that might be dense into something that's easy to digest. So obviously, you're internalizing that concept over and over again. Now, sometimes your friends are not going to understand the examples that you're giving. This is where you should not get upset, but you should get creative. If you can explain something, challenge yourself. I know you might get frustrated, but challenge yourself to explain it in a completely different way. I like to think that if I'm explaining something and a 5-year-old cannot understand it, then I should probably explain it better. And of course, you're not gonna talk to someone who's 25 like they're 5. But still, you get the point. So next time someone says, thank you for teaching me, you can say, no, thank you for letting me say out loud all the thought process I had in my head about this topic. Because again, teaching is also learning. There's something called the learning pyramid that we also discuss in a different video here. But the point I want to make about this is that this learning pyramid, which is often taken as one study method is better than the other, what it actually says and what's supposed to be saying is, look, the more engaged in the process, the more immersed you are in a situation, the more likely you are to learn it. So if you're studying in a group, you are speaking, you're writing, you're receiving their feedback. It is a very immersive process. So it turns out to be a great resource considering and given that you have the right study partners, okay? Do not overlook that, seriously. Other than that, study groups can be highly beneficial, so I would definitely recommend them too.